Oh, hey there, you. Good to see you again. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Kylie. I'm 21. I'm living in LA. And today I'm going to be talking about what it's like to be perceived as a trans girl in LA and on a larger level in the US and on a larger level in the world. While I talk about this, I'm also going to do my makeup. So starting off with this Glossier. But yeah, so I'm transgender. I've been outwardly trans for probably about 2.5 years, transitioning for about 2 years and 2 months. And as far as transitioning goes and that process goes, I love that, it's very validating. It's a really beautiful experience, and it just makes me happy about life, and about myself. It's me finally being able to be who I've always wanted to be. For a long time, I had a lot of worry and just fear about losing friends when I came out and the world not being as nice to me, and just all the challenges that come with being part of one of the most talked about and one of the most talked about minority groups. I'm just gonna leave it at that. But yeah, when I first came out, I was living in Northern California, near San Francisco, in this little town called San Rafael. That's actually where I was going to school. And what's weird about it is San Rafael and the surrounding area is so liberal, and San Francisco too, and it's very liberal. It's also somewhat, I'd say, spiritual. There was a lot of spiritual leaders who lived there. Ram Dass, if you know who that is, I believe Terrence McKenna, and a lot more who all gathered in that San Rafael area, which is kind of mind-blowing because these are some of my inspirations in life. But overall, that area was very accepting. I did go to a Catholic school, and so after coming out, I actually did end up losing all my friends. But yeah, that's kind of just what comes with, if you've, I'd for so long been trying to act like a guy, and then suddenly it's hey, I'm not a man, I'm a girl, and that can be a shocker to a lot of people. They start to, instead of realizing that what's happened is you've actually just let them deeper into your life and, allowed them more intimate knowledge of who you are, a lot of people see it as the person they know dying or disappearing or finding out it was a lie. And it can be very hard for people who don't understand what it means to be trans to have someone they love come out as trans. And so, yeah, but I would say that area is fantastic. I was going to a Catholic school, so that probably played a part in that, if we're being honest. There, But San Francisco is one of the most trans-friendly places ever, possibly out of anywhere I've ever lived, which is fantastic. I just realized my mic is not plugged in, so I'm so sorry about the audio in this video. I usually have better audio, but yeah, and well, shortly after that, shortly after all that, I ended up moving back to Ann Arbor, Michigan. And Ann Arbor is very progressive. Very, very, very progressive. If you are not progressive, you are shunned. To the point where it's so progressive that people go out of their way to show how progressive they are. And if you're not as progressive as they are, then they're gonna get on you about that. When I say progressive, it's kind of synonymous with liberal. So in Ann Arbor, no one was outwardly rude ever. Occasionally you get the odd looks, the dirty looks. I guess not no one. I did work a job. Working jobs while being trans has been one of the biggest difficulties. I worked a job where this coworker was hey, so, I heard that trans people say, they feel like a woman. Well, I also heard that, killers and, killers and then other stuff that I won't mention here, other bad types of people feel like that. How is that any different? And it was just, different things. They were comparing me to killers and R-word people and P-word people, and just for being a trans girl. And it was really lame. And I went to my manager and told him about it. And then, of course, with the unconscious biases that a lot of people already had, my cisgender, white, straight, middle-aged male manager, had at a Ruth's Chris steakhouse, right? Well, from his perspective, suddenly, one of these LGBTQ progressive people was coming to him, talking to him about killers and R-word people and P people, and I actually ended up getting fired for reporting what my coworker had said. At other jobs I've worked since being trans, I'd say the next job I worked was in a little restaurant. I worked in 2 restaurants at the same time. In one of them, it was very cliquey, and there was multiple trans women who worked in the restaurants, and the only people who weren't in the clique, who weren't included and weren't invited to the things that everyone else did together, were the trans women. The trans men were invited, but I think a lot of people can't ever tell with trans men. I don't think people's minds are there for whatever reason. I think people just hate women for whatever reason, The same people who hate on trans women are the people who are sexist. And that just goes hand in hand. But yeah. And I also, at the same time, worked one other job that was fantastic. The other one was fantastic. Everyone was really kind. I was working in a support role, which wasn't my favorite. I prefer to be in a restaurant serving instead of like hosting or food running or busing, and they kept saying there was a promotion coming, but then there was another guy working there who had been there for 8 months, and he was like fantastic. This guy's energy was perfect. He knew how to talk with everybody. His communication was on point. He worked probably more effectively than me. I got so many tips from him. It was just fantastic. And I found out they'd been basically stringing him along for a promotion for, 8 months. And they would hire servers from the outside and keep the support staff in their support roles, which is standard in the restaurant industry. People don't want to take those support roles, so they don't promote them when they have someone, which is really lame. But that's pretty standard. And I talked to one of my coworkers, this guy, we'll call him Gene, and he was the guy who was making the most money there. Sometimes he'd serve a party who had like a $35,000 table minimum, and he took it and he'd do it with another server, but he'd get like $4,000 in one night. Like, this guy was making a 6-figure salary at this restaurant. And I talked to him about it, and I was like, I asked him his honest opinion, and Gene was like, well, do you want Gene's opinion or do you want Michael's opinion? And I was like, what? And he's like, so Gene is my middle name. It's the name I use at work, and that's when I'm in work mode. But Michael is my opinion. And I was like, okay, well, could I get both opinions? And so first she goes, okay, well, my Gene opinion is that, and I know that I'm on a tangent here, but I'm just telling my story. This is how I conversate. I hope you enjoy it. But what he told me is his Gene opinion was that, he'd worked for a long time, constantly switching from restaurant to restaurant, always elevating, always going to another one. But his passion and the career he saw himself doing in life was working in the restaurant industry. And had it not been, he might not have been as attached to the job. He didn't say that explicitly, but that was kind of implied. And then he said his Michael opinion, he said, when he was young and my age, he worked a lot of jobs, and he would leave jobs, pretty casually and not think much of it. And because he saw his life going forward, he didn't really think about this as a career, this as who he was going to be. And so he said, basically, unless this is what I want to do with my life and be a server and be in the best place to do it, I should probably go, basically. He didn't say it explicitly, but he also said one thing that was like so impactful. He said, don't ever expect something that's happening to someone else to not happen to you. And that one hit me like, oh, right, of course. My coworker who's been here for 8 months, who's better at the job than me, has been dealing with this. Of course they're not going to promote me before him, right? And I thought about it, and it was really, really good advice. And so I did leave that job. It was, it was a great job. I really enjoyed that one. But then I worked at one more job, which was this little sports bar. Getting Ann Arbor was actually really positive. What I find is a lot of sports fans, especially football fans, love trans women. Not when they're around their friends. When they're around their friends, they want to prove how straight they are. But when they're by themselves, they love trans women. They love Twinkie boys. I don't really. But yeah. And that one, there was really no problem with me being trans. Everything went really well. And I was not prepared, honestly, for switching from fine dining to a sports bar. Because in fine dining, it's like, okay, you're serving 4 tables at once, maybe 5 tables at once. In a sports bar, okay, you're serving 12 tables at once, and 9 of the 12 only want drinks and they want a lot of them. And it's like changing my whole style of service. I just wasn't really ready for it. And so after that, I was like, okay, fuck it. You know what? I'm burnt out from this. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I'm going to move to LA, somewhere where it's going to be more progressive, somewhere where things are going to be good, and da-da-da-da. Anyways, fast forward, about a month later, I get all my money, I move to LA, I pack up my shit, and I get out here. And I had expected LA to be like San Francisco. Very accepting, very, very, very liberal. And then what I found out when I came here is that this is a city based on appearances. What I mean by this is people think with their eyes here. And this is true for all women here, not just trans women. But people aren't kind to you unless you have this sort of stereotypical LA look, you know? Like dolled up, perfection, surgically, blah, 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 blah. And for trans girls, that's multiplied exponentially. Because if people see that you're trans here, it's very often they're gonna give you a dirty look. You know, I've had people be like, oh, did you cut your dick off? Be like, oh yeah, how'd you get fucked? You just whip that thing out? Like my coworkers have said that to me here. I worked this job where all these women ganged up on me and were really, really just mean. Just really mean out here. And nothing like that had ever happened to me before I came out. Before I came out, it was so easy. Like presenting, I'm sorry, like I'm Mexican and I'm Hispanic, but I don't look Hispanic. And before I came out, no one knew that I was any like a part of any marginalized group, right? And shit was so easy. I would just go into anywhere I wanted to go. I'd be like, hey, are you hiring? The answer was always yes. I'd always go for the interview. I'd always get the job. Like, while I was in college, I was working part-time as a food runner, making $35 an hour at this fantastic restaurant that I have very fond memories of. But since coming out is the only time I've dealt with weird shit at jobs. So I did that. I also worked at a little restaurant that brought me in. The owners, there was 2 owners, a man and a woman. The guy, he really liked me. He was an accepting guy. You could tell that like he was just a really nice guy. It seemed like I always got the vibe from his wife that she didn't really vibe with me. That she, I don't know why I got that. Because it would be all smiles and her actions would show. Like if I described her actions towards me, it wouldn't sound bad. But I don't know, you feel energy, I feel like. And she did the scheduling. He did the organizing of money and management. And at a certain point, I just stopped being scheduled. So I figured, okay, I guess I'm getting soft fired. I went in later to collect my last paycheck, and the vibe was from him, where'd you go, Carly? We needed you. Like, we had to hire a new person because you left. Like, let me take your number down and just know we're always ready to help out. We love staying in touch with our people. That is like sweetest thing I've ever seen. This restaurant also did steal the tips from the card, like all the credit card tips from the servers. So that was lame. That was a lame thing they did. But at the same time, it was just really disheartening. Because what it made me realize was that he didn't know that I'd been fired. He thought that I had just stopped showing up to work. Which means that she had decided to stop scheduling me without ever having a conversation about it. And, I can't jump to any conclusions here, but this has never happened before I was presenting in the world as a trans woman. I'd say in LA, every day I probably get a lot of dirty looks when I'm going out in public. I get a lot of good looks too. Like a lot of people look at me like I'm pretty, but then you can tell it's usually like ugly men who just look sad, who give me dirty looks. Like the same guys who are probably jerks to all the women in their lives. Or women will give me dirty looks, but it's usually older, conservative-looking women, or it's usually conservative women. It's usually the women who attack trans women are the same women who attack other women, right? It's the girls who have probably had their femininity challenged in the past and are just repeating the trauma they've been through. And same goes for the guys who are transphobic. It's probably just guys who, were very homophobic values were instilled in them at an early age, and they're just now projecting it outward because, a lot of people, instead of being gay, they just become fascists. It doesn't make any sense. It's just be gay, dude. But yeah. I'm not talking about gay, like, I love gay people, but I'm saying that the people who are homophobic tend to be people who are deeply suppressed and, you know. But yeah, and that's been my experience in LA so far. I'd say like West Hollywood has been so great. It's so accepting. Everyone's really nice. Beverly Hills is another level of conservative. I don't think it really has anything to do with me being trans. I think it had to do with the clothes I was wearing and just not having designer stuff on me. Not just like it's very flashy. And in Beverly Hills, it seems like a lot of people, you know, are trying to show off their wealth, status, beauty, things like that. It's just, I don't know. Beverly Hills attracts that for some reason. Maybe that's just my opinion of it, but I really don't think it is. Silver Lake is great. Silver Lake is so chill. I like Silver Lake. And then like the rest of LA is, oh my god. I've had people laugh at me on the street. I've had all this. Now I'm highlighting the bad things because I'm not going to highlight the good. I would say most days I'm able to live a normal life. You know, I just experience just some weird looks. And on social media, of course, you know, the people telling me, you know, off yourself and you're a man and look at your Adam's apple and your shoulders and your jaw, and they just point out and just, you know. But that's getting into my next point. So now I've talked about being a trans girl in LA, and I'm gonna go to a wider perspective now, being a trans girl in the US. And it's weird. It's weird now. It's a weird time because we live in a time when it's perfectly okay to be openly transphobic. And people are gonna be like, what? No, it's not. But like, think about it. They literally banned trans people Trump banned trans people from being in the military, and half of the country is voting for him. So quite literally, half of the country is voting to outlaw and take away the rights, the human rights of trans people. So, like, right? So that, I mean, that's all I need to say about what it's like to be a trans girl in the US, really. Yeah, and if you really look into it, if you look into like Florida and a lot of states, they're actually taking active steps to outlaw people like me, which has already happened in a lot of states where they've made it really hard to get gender affirming care. And it's effectively banned trans women there, where they've had to leave their homes and uproot their whole lives to go move somewhere else where they're allowed to get their medical treatment. Now, this is representative of a larger issue. I don't think anyone truly cares about trans issues. I don't think anyone cares about trans people. Not to say they don't care, but I mean, who gives a fuck? We're just people. I think people watch the media, and the media makes people think they care about things. It's sort of like how you wouldn't know about what you wanted to buy unless you'd seen the ad for it. And like, no one wants to buy these things. The media just trains you to want to buy these things. And I think that's just representative of larger issues in this country that I'm not going to get into with this video. And then being a trans woman in the world. I think it's pretty good. We're in a weird time. You know, we're in a very weird time. I think a similar thing has happened with every civil rights movement, where usually there's a lot of like turmoil and nonsense going on right before real change happens. And so I think that's where we are. I think that we're at a point where like 5 to 10 years from now, all those who have been openly transphobic are gonna reap what they sow, you know? But yeah, I have been so into my talking right now that I have barely done any makeup. But yeah, I would say, you know, going into more of the positive aspects of the experience, because if you're watching this and you're like a young trans woman or anything else, I think it's super important to also give some perspective. It's of course vital to highlight the challenges that I would expect to deal with. I think it's important to talk about what it's like depending on where you live. I think that's vital. I think that's education. I think that teaches people to protect themselves. But this being said, transitioning and being me has been so well worth it. And honestly, I'm grateful that like people show me their true colors right away, right? And like when a person is transphobic, well, the bottom line is they're spewing hate out of themselves, which means that hate must be in themselves. In order to send hate outward, it must be in you. And so I would say that it makes it a lot easier for me to avoid hateful people. You know, people show themselves to me right away, and it's very, like, it's like this, that I'm able to tell what someone's character is like. So that's a blessing, and just nothing can ever amount to being able to express myself and be the person I've always wanted to be. And at the end of the day, it's really a matter of choosing your environment. I was in a situation where I needed to wage work, unfortunately, and wage working is hard for trans women. It's why a lot of us, often turn to things where we don't have to be seen or perceived, like coding or sex work. You're seen in sex work, but yeah, it's just easier and safer to do that. I won't lie, I am a little shaken up. Earlier tonight, there was a bunch of gunshots outside of my apartment complex. Not like immediately outside, but probably within like a mile. Probably closer than that, actually. And it really shook me up. And it got me thinking about the statistics, right? And so people who are, trans people are 4 times as likely to be the victim of violent crimes, of sexual crimes, and of all crimes as their cis counterparts. And what we're talking about is not trans people who pass, we're talking about clockable trans people. And that is the unfortunate truth with being trans in this country and the world right now. Is that if you pass, you're not going to deal with any of this. If you're past this whole video, who cares? Because you pass. So you're not going to deal with transphobia. But if you don't pass, your options are kind of, okay, we'll deal with transphobia, maybe arm yourself and be ready, or get surgeries. And for me, that's not much of a big thing. I've been wanting to get these surgeries my whole life, so it's not, it's always been for me, and it sucks that, it's what I have to do to be treated right by society, but also, I was gonna do it anyways, so, I've got that to look forward to, but yeah, oh, okay, sorry, I get real quiet when I'm doing my mascara, bear with me, guys. But also, I would say that some of the most beautiful relationships I've had in my life have come after transitioning, and in being honest with myself, I've been able to understand myself better, learn who I am, develop what I want, my goals, my ambitions in life, and really just grow as a human. I think that it's key to be honest about who you are. And it's weird. It's a weird thing to not be honest about who you are if you really think about it. If you think about the fact that we are just a grain of sand in the mind of the multiverse, that we are part of this human collective, that we're literally just animals on this big ball floating in space. Why the fuck would you not be honest about who you are? We live in this crazy psychedelic world. And so I think that's vital for all people, even if you're not trans. I think there's always going to be hateful people out there, but at the end of the day, hateful people are hateful people. They're not attacking trans people because they care about trans issues. They're attacking trans people because that's the group you're allowed to attack right now, right? So the same people who are doing this are the people who were attacking gay people 5 years ago, attacking people of color 30 years ago, attacking, Jews. It's the same people who are doing this to trans women, I'm sure, are the people who have been bigots. Bigots will be bigots, shall be bigots, will always be bigots. So don't ever let others' perception of you affect what you want to do with your life. And the other thing is, once you get to a point where you can control your environment, well, it's very easy to avoid this. And if you're going anywhere that you're paying money, they're gonna respect you because it's their job. You know what I mean? If you're in a restaurant and a server misgenders you, well, they just threw away their entire tip. You know what I'm saying? You hear what I'm saying? So, people aren't going to misgender you in those type of situations. And people aren't going to be rude to you, and people aren't going to do the things they're going to do. You would never have the manager of a restaurant in a situation where you're not working there misgender you, say rude things to you, talk about your penis, any of these things, right? Because then you put a bad review for the restaurant and they get fired. At the end of the day, most people spend their time in their own heads. Most people are within their own thoughts, in their own minds. It might be impossible not to be. So at the end of the day, no one cares. No one fucking cares. There's just a bunch of people whose hearts have been burned by hatred, and they just don't know how to communicate with others. And that's really all it is. When you look at a bigot, what you're actually looking at is someone whose heart has been polluted by hate. And so don't ever let that get to you. Don't even get mad at those people. They don't deserve it. Like, if you saw like this snarling, angry dog outside, are you gonna get mad at that dog? You're gonna be like, oh my God, fuck you, dog, fuck you. You're gonna fucking bark at me? No, you're gonna be like, oh fuck, that scary dog, I'm just gonna walk away. Like, it's kind of sad. That's how you should look at people that's how you should look at bigots. Like, little snarling dog that's like, oh, ooh. One thing I've done is when people misgender me, I misgender them back. So like if a girl is like, if I'm in a restaurant ordering or something and a girl is like, okay, sir, like I'm not a fucking sir, come on now. So I'm like, oh my God, you're a trans man. Wow, you must be early. How many months have you been transitioning? You already look like such like a big buff man. And then you just make them feel dysmorphia, it always gets reversed on them and they take it 3 times as personally as you do because such are the laws of the universe. So yeah, I think really don't worry about it. If you're a trans girl, you're gonna be good. What you're gonna build is you're gonna build resilience like you've never known. You're gonna build really just self-reliance, belief in yourself, trust, and all these things to a level that is just unimaginable to most people. And it's really a beautiful thing. It also being trans has led me to think about more philosophical things, more mental things, and really just think about what it means to be alive and to be conscious and to be human. And I would say that overall, I'm so grateful that I am who I am. Of course, I do get frustrated sometimes that okay, well, once I have my surgeries, my quality of life will dramatically improve. And of course, that's true. And that's a hard thing to cope with at times. But at the end of the day, c'est la vie, such is life. Okay, 1 second here. So, got the little mascara on. I'm actually just gonna do the top. No, I feel naked if I don't do my bottom lashes. I'm sorry, guys, bear with me here. I actually have pretty much talked about everything I have to talk about. So I'm gonna do the finishing touches on this makeup, and I'm gonna be done. Let's see, where's my little... Okay. So the last thing I'm gonna finish with is this Dior Lip Maximizer. You guys, if you like this video, I do so much stuff. So please subscribe, share. Check out my other socials. I have Instagram, Twitter, X, rather. I started a Facebook. Nobody's on the Facebook. All these are live streamed on Twitch. And then I also started a little podcast. Nobody's really watched it yet. It's called the Just Strangers podcast. Look it up. It's pretty entertaining. It's funny. It's supposed to be funny. I'm working on it. It's growing. I'm working on a stop animation, and I just split off this channel into a few channels. So this is gonna be my main channel where I post content of me, living my life, being me, talking about trans stuff, life stuff, girly stuff. And then there's another channel where I'll read books on it, and another channel where I upload my lives. It's kind of a lot to manage all this. Oh, also music. You can search me up on all the different streaming platforms. I've been doing little freestyles that I upload, and soon I'm going to start uploading real music. But yes, without further ado, here is this Dior Lip Maximizer. Okay, so let me show off the final look here. Hopefully I don't turn my phone off by mistake. If I do, I'm sorry, you won't get to see it. It's been so good having you here, talking with you. Let me turn this light on. Talking with you, as always. Good to see you, and I will see you soon in the next video. Until then, bye!